So I want to get started. This is a picture that some of you may have seen. This is a picture taken at the Beatles ashram, and so-called Beatles ashram. It's not the Beatles ashram, but it's what Westerners nickname it that. And I'll say a little bit later why it's particularly important to me. So what I'd like to talk about is my sabbatical, and which turned into a pilgrimage, and it was as you can see here, a journey of sight and insight and movement and meditation. And it was a significant outward journey, but more significant was the journey into inner space that accompanied it. And a part of this is this is Frank Griswold, the former presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church. This is him. He's at St. Mark's here. This is our Fully Alive series. It's a phenomenal photograph, isn't it? And Frank was my spiritual director. And when he died, I was crushed. Jill had the unfortunate job of telling me that he had died. It came over the Episcopal News Service, and I went home, and we have a bathroom upstairs that our adult children use. And I went into the bathroom, and I collapsed on the floor, and I curled into a little ball, and I wept, and I wept, and I wept. I shut the door so no one would hear me, and my wife, Jennifer, found me, and I said, I'm so lonely, no one will ever know me again. In the way that Frank knew the depths of my being. And I love Frank, and I had the great privilege not of just loving him, but of being loved by him. There's the only thing more powerful than loving somebody is to be loved by them. And Frank was that for me, and understood the depths of the mystical life. And he also understood the issues of parish priests, and he understood the culture that I come from and live in. So in many ways, the whole thing was started by what happened was in some sense started by Frank's death. And so there's a quandary and a quest and a bunch of questions here. The quandary was I was overdue for sabbatical, and I didn't have any idea what to do. Frank had died. Jennifer didn't want to go. That was shocking to me. Can you believe that? All these years we've been together, and she didn't want to go. And she had just started a new career as a social worker, and she wanted to stay home and do her hours. And I had significant issues to be addressed, and I didn't know where to go. And in some sense, I had the whole world to choose from, which is actually harder to contend with than you might think. Limits make life easier, but having everything as your choice is in some sense more difficult. And so I launched into a quest, and that was to go into the world to find people to talk about my spiritual issues. I didn't have anybody in the neighborhood I wanted to speak with about my issues, and I had an incredibly deep desire still to be free and to live a mystical life. And so I started to send out emails to people. As you know, Jesus, the most penetrating human being to ever live, has the question, what do you want or what do you seek, depending on the translation of that. And in time, I came to understand that what I wanted was kenosis. Kenosis is the word used in the spiritual life for a radical emptying of the self. We get this in Philippians where it says that he didn't feel holding on to the divine was something to be grasped or held on to, but emptied himself. This is the term for emptied himself and became a human being. And the second thing I desired was mystical union. And so there were really two questions that I was seeking here to ask the people that I was going to see. One, is there a Christian path to profound kenosis? I didn't want to die with disappointments. I'm getting to the age where I can see that there is an end, and I can also look in the rearview mirror and see all that has happened, and I'm very focused on life as I have it. So I wanted a profound letting go of disappointments. I didn't drag them along, and I also was seeking a path of radical self-acceptance. Phineas, many of you know Finn. Finn's our youngest son, and I was walking a very long walk with him in San Francisco some time before this, and we were talking about deep things, and we were waiting on a street corner, and he just turned to me and he said, well, enlightenment is radical self-acceptance. Out of the blue, I nearly fell over. And it was a comment that made a tremendous impact on me. So I was looking for such. And the second question I had that I was asking these folks was, besides more meditation, is there a path to deeper mystical union with the living Christ or the divine being? And so these were kind of how I went into it. Now, there were seasons of the sabbatical or in the pilgrimage. The one was the Holy Land pilgrimage that we had as a congregation, as a group, 34 of us, I think. I was in Paris working on the question of what do you want? I was in London in search of answers. In France and Spain at a Camino de Football. I'll get to that in a moment. And then a passage to India and a passage to the soul. And then finally, a taste of Mexico City. The pilgrimages within the pilgrimage is just to say I went to a lot of places that people consider, religious people consider destinations, the Holy Land, the Camino Frances, Rishikesh, the Ganges, the Ganga as it's known in their world, and saw tremendous numbers of people bathing themselves in Dharamsala to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then later the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is in Mexico. And I went to a lot of this. I haven't stated that properly. Areas entered where particular regions dominate. I really should say religions entered. I mean, I've got it in the wrong order there. But I was in areas where Christianity was the religion, Judaism was the religion, Islam was the religion, Hinduism was the religion, Sikhism was the religion, and Buddhism too. Sikhs, by the way, is the fifth largest religion in the world, which started in the 1500s. They're people of great peace. I should do an ad for Keen shoes. I bought these on Route 1 at REI, and I am life devoted to these shoes. I wish they could had a pedometer or a mileometer on them to see how many miles went on these shoes. It's a phenomenal number. And this is on the edge of the Ganges with that little marigold sitting there in between them. I went to 8 countries, crossed the borders 11 times. So Israel, Palestinian territories, Jordan, Paris, France, London, England, the Camino de Frances. I walked into Spain. The only reason I know I got into Spain is my phone said, "Welcome to Spain." We were on some mountain. I didn't know where we were. And that was also part of the funny thing. I did the Camino in reverse, the hardest part of the Camino, went back to London, and then flew to India, flew to Mumbai, and drove to Patnam Beach in Goa. And then eventually to Panaji too, which is the capital of Goa, and then a fly and train and car to Rishikesh, and then train and car to Chandigarh, and then train and car to Dharamsala, and a train and car or car and train to New Delhi. I mean, it's getting around. It's just big country, as my friend Chris would say. Came home and then went to Mexico City. Just for fun, I feel like I'm a currency trader. Dollars, shekels, denarii, a euro, pound, a rupee, and a peso. I learned a lot about the value of the dollar. And in some places, the value of the dollar makes you feel like a king. Okay, so this is the bedroom. This is my bedroom in Goa. When that was at a place, the Seaview Resort, and the only thing I can say about it was you can't see the sea, and this was no resort. And this was the high-end bedroom, and the bed was, I might as well slept on the floor. I mean, you notice, I mean, it's pretty funny, but for me, this was living. Anyway, I did 25 beds or something like that. You don't need to see all my beds, but I wanted to. Okay, so here we get started. For those of you who are Holy Land pilgrims, I can just tell you right now, this is so short, it's not going to do any justice to what you might have hoped to see. But I don't have time to really go through that. And below on the other side of my mugshot here, put your head in the wall, and I'll explain that in a moment. This is, I think, when I got on the plane. I went a few days early. I think it's 10 hours and 28 minutes, 5,676 miles. There you go, flying to Jerusalem. I have a few pics I just thought you should see. I mean, this is Ben Gurion Airport. If you've never been there, Ben Gurion Airport is a very, very modern airport, about 20 miles outside of Tel Aviv and 40 miles outside of Jerusalem. Here, I put this picture here. I was here alone at this point. I just see that little nozzle of that machine gun. I took a picture of that because I was sitting in the chair exact opposite that nozzle of the machine gun. That guy didn't seem worried about that at all. So I switched chairs. He thought I was weird for switching chairs. He kept staring at me like there was something wrong with me. And I felt like saying, man, your machine gun is pointing right to the side of my head. I'm a little uncomfortable here. But those of you who've been to the state of Israel know that this is a very common sight, which is essentially teenagers with machine guns. This is the best, if you're going to Jerusalem, this is the best yoga studio in Jerusalem. And I thought I would show you, this is a market that some of you have been to before. If you want to go and have fun in Jerusalem, this market is a don't miss. Remember I said I wanted to go buy a hat? Now, some of you have seen my rabbi hat. I don't have it here to put on, but I bought this hat. And when I put it on, it's the most expensive hat in the store. And I said to the guy, "Oh my God, I look like a rabbi." And he said, "You don't look like a rabbi." So anyway, I still think I look like a rabbi. Anyway, it's an Italian hat. So I went to Jerusalem to buy a hat, to buy an Italian hat. I thought you might want to see that this is kind of like going to, in Jerusalem, they have an area that is sort of like the Upper East Side and Soho all put together. I had a phenomenal dinner there that night. I was ready to move after that, and this all goes up the street, and that's not a great shot of that poor woman when I ended there. But anyway, I'll move on. And here's the old city closing down in the evening, just to give you different sets of. There's more than one Jerusalem here. Here's the other Jerusalem, which is East Jerusalem. This is a Palestinian territory. This is about a half mile from St. George's, where the Episcopal Cathedral is. This is where my son Ben, when he was there, hung out. This is where the cab drivers hang out during the day, and at nighttime they drink pomegranate juice and smoke hookah. No, this is me coming home at night, following the Google Maps rather than going home. I thought, I mean, this was weird. I didn't see anybody, miles of this. Okay, then everybody shows up. St. George is in Jerusalem. Here's our opening shot. Doesn't everybody look amazing? Okay, so just to give you some sense of things, here we are in the city of Jerusalem, and this is obviously the Golden Dome, which is basically on the site where the first and second temples were, and you can start to see the outside of the wall, the Temple Mount area. And now it's Sunday, September 10th, and I've got that on there for a reason. This is what used to be known as the Wailing Wall, but the Jewish community prefers us to call this the Western Wall now. It's the westernmost wall of the Temple, of what they would refer to as the Temple Mount. And on the right side is where women pray, and on the left side is where men pray. In here, you would see men studying the Torah as that's their job. You're all in touch with, there's a portion of the population that's what they do. And people put these little notes, they put notes in the wall, and these are the notes that I put in the wall. And I didn't put all those notes in the wall. I had a lot to pray about. But I put this was below where I was standing with my head on the wall. And I stuck my head in the wall here, and I had a wild experience when I put my head in the wall of feeling as though I had put my head in the divine being. And I felt it just engulfed by the divine. And I in the moment came to understand the difference between meditation, which is what we do to still ourselves and to be in touch with God, and contemplation, which is when we're met by grace. And I had an experience of contemplation here. And I didn't want to take my head out of the wall, but we had to keep moving eventually. And put your head in the wall. That was the message I got from here for my sabbatical. I was put my head in the wall. And so the patron saint for my trip became Elijah, who, as you know, hid in the cave and experienced the divine majesty, the majesty of the divine in the still small voice. In the whole question of the interior cave. Interior cave is something that comes from the Orthodox Christian tradition. That's how they speak of the deepest part of our soul. And they have some tremendous writings from the Orthodox holy people on this. But the interior cave became and is a big part of my spirituality. And here's an icon that I got of Elijah. That's the cave behind him, waiting for the still small voice. So now I want to say a little bit about the Temple Mount and Noble Sanctuary. This is Iyad here. This is a different trip, folks, not the one we were just on. So you'll see if you don't see yourself there, it's because you weren't there. Oh, no, this is the trip. No, this is our trip. The next picture is not going to be our trip. So this is our trip. Excuse me. There's Jill right there, in fact. And we're on the far side now. This is the side that's closest to where the trial of Jesus took place, sort of about 50 yards beyond Iyad's back. But I want to come to this place. There's Kevin, my brother-in-law there. Kevin, nice stride. And this is a mosque here, the front of the mosque. You can't see it. This area of the Temple Mount is known as, in Judaism, as the Temple Mount. It's known as Noble Sanctuary in Islam. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque is this mosque here. And one of the times I tried to find some pictures because I've been there several times, and I couldn't dig it out this morning. We were at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in this corner here once with Iyad, and there was a group of older women here. And some Israelis came up on the top. I just preface all this to say the great tragedy that is unfolding, has unfolded and is continuing to unfold and will continue to unfold is beyond words. And it's a tragedy for the Israelis, and it's a tragedy for the Palestinian people. As a moment of education for everybody, I thought it was important for you to see something here. This is a drawing of a proposed drawing of the Third Temple movement, a far-right movement in Judaism, Israeli Judaism. And you can see this is where the Dome of the Rock is now, and the desire to build a temple, a reconstruction. You can see that down there, a reconstruction. And this can be seen on the way up on a walkway up there. Now, here, this is, I'm just going to show this to you quickly here. The reason I'm showing this is a group of Jewish Israelis, as you can see with security, coming up on the Temple Mount. This is where or noble sanctuary. This is where you enter. And the reason I'm showing this to you is I don't know if you've followed the news closely, but the Second Intifada was set off when Ariel Sharon came up there, and the 11-day war a few years ago was set off by Jewish Israelis up there. And now the Hamas Israel war, the spokesman for Hamas said the reason for the war is the Judaization of the noble sanctuary and people coming up on the Temple Mount. Or noble sanctuary, as they would call it. And so, quite apart from any judgment, I think it's very important we understand that the place that we're visiting here is the third most holy site for the people of Islam, and the first most holy site for the people of Judaism. And so the conflict that arises from this is deep and profound. And Christians have no claim to this space, because Jesus said it's not in the mountain Jerusalem nor the mountain Samaria that you will worship. The time is coming when you'll worship in spirit and truth anywhere. So Jesus is the new temple, as is outlined particularly in the Gospel according to John. So we have no claim to this, but this is a fraught and dangerous place. Now, I want to also give you a sense that many of you haven't been to Palestinian territories. This is Ramallah. We're going to church. This is the equivalent of Elm Street in Ramallah, okay? So just to give you a sense of that. And now we're in Bethlehem, and I thought I'd give you a sense of what is known as the separation barrier, or the wall. And this cuts through a street. And some of you have been there and found this is a pretty wild thing to see. So that's just to give a taste of, I'm just giving you a taste of things here. Here we are in Wadi Kelt. Down below here is the road that goes from Jericho to Jerusalem, a road that is referred to often in the scriptures. Jesus walked up and down it many, many times, and that's the place where the Good Samaritan takes place. And this is, we go there early in the morning. This is sunrise. These are your St. Mark's compatriots. Is that the coolest? There's got to be no cooler place on the planet than Wadi Kelt. And this is when I am most riveting, because no one is looking at me. I mean, in front of you, in front of me is everybody having communion outside. How's that for a raredas? And that is a look at the Judean desert when Jesus goes into the desert in the so-called wilderness. That's where Jesus is. As you can see, it's not a sandy desert. It's a rock-hard desert. We had a tremendous amount of fun, and this is before one dinner at the Sisters of Nazareth, up in Nazareth, excuse me. And it's really, really, really a fun spot. I also wanted to show you, just for the funkiness of things, there is one Palestinian town that remains primarily Christian, and these Christians practice sacrifice too, and that's the blood of the lamb. Undoubtedly, there you can see the spike where the lamb has been drained off, and you can see the handprints. So you put your hand in the blood and put it here, and that's you say your prayers in the blood and put your hand up on the wall, and they eat the meat and then give the rest of the meat to the poor. This is in Taipei. Some of you have had Taipei beer, or Taipei wine, or Taipei olive oil. This is the Valley of Jezreel. This just happens to be Mount Tabor. This is where they venerate the Transfiguration. I just wanted you to see a different landscape. This is Sea of Galilee. In the morning, we were at the Sea of Galilee at the so-called primacy of St. Peter. I mean, it looks like a movie set, doesn't it? That's what it felt like. It was like we were in a movie set. And that's the effect it had on Brian Hetherington. So this is pilgrims here at the edge of the Sea of Galilee. I want to show you one other place. This is the place venerated in the Garden of Gethsemane. This is the Church of All Nations because it was funded by all nations. And if you're ever there, this is on the base of the Kidron Valley. Just through the Kidron Valley at the base of the Mount of Olives. I would say this rock here, where you can see some of your fellow parishioners saying their prayers. This is the most incredible rock. Put your head on the rock, and you'll never be able to get it away from there. It's a spiritual magnet, a place of profound holy prayer. And now this is Stations of the Cross. This is Jack Harrison carrying the cross. And Jack was an acolyte here for a long time. And so one portion of us were a little late in catching up when came around the corner with Jack carrying the cross. Very meaningful to a lot of us. And this is the Church of the Holy Resurrection, outside of the Church of the Holy Resurrection, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And I just took this picture. Some of you have heard the story about this ladder. The ladder has no meaning, but you can't move it because there's all the denominations that run the church. You can't move the ladder. Somebody moved the ladder once, had to move the ladder back. You can't make any changes to the structure easily, that is. And this is inside near the tomb where the place venerated, where it was said that Jesus was buried. The exact place was destroyed in an invasion in the 1500s, but they have a chapel. And this is what these candles, this is what they light in the Easter Vigil. Must be the most frightening place in the world. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is a wild, kind of crazy place that started in the 300s, but with Constantine's mom. And this thing rocks and rolls, but everybody lights these things at the same time. I mean, as I said, must be the most dangerous place on the planet to be, the Easter Vigil. We ate a lot. There's the crew. I was given this icon that's super meaningful to me of Mary Magdalene by the crew. And Carl, did you take this picture, Barb? Yeah. I love that picture. So I put in the picture of me that I love. It's got no other reason other than I love the picture. Okay, there it is. This is the St. George's. Yeah, Carl, thanks for taking that picture. I look way better than normal there. That's why I like it. And just want to give you a shot of Jerusalem at night. Obviously, this is the wall of the old city here. And then here, this is looking the other direction. This is so-called East Jerusalem on the other side of this main drag. A lot to say about that main drag, which is a major dividing line in the community. But that's not for today. That's a talk for another day. Okay, we then cross over. We're now in Jordan, and this is the Jordan River. And we're in a phenomenal spot in the Jordan River on the Jordanian side. Remember, it says in John's Gospel that Jesus was that John the Baptist was working on the other side of the Jordan. Everything is directional from Jerusalem, and so the Jordanian side. This is the National Heritage Site of the river. And there's an enormous Roman Catholic church being built, and there was nobody there that day. And so we all got to put our feet in the Jordan River. I just wanted to give you a sense of Amman. Those of you who haven't been to Middle Eastern cities, there's a great array of Middle Eastern cities. But one of the things you see in many of them is this kind of construction, where buildings all over the place are kind of half done, and they don't seem to worry about that. That's just kind of how they go. They might have a family. Jennifer and I have been with Sam in Lebanon, for instance, where a family, build out and put all their kids in the first 2 floors. They didn't finish the top 3 floors because they were waiting for their kids to get married and move upstairs. Much different. And this is right next door to it. This is inside the city of Amman. And so all that stuff in the Bible about sheep and shepherds, it's all still there. Still sheep, shepherds, pastors, pastoral, all that stuff is very much a part of it. We took a long bus drive through the Judean desert, and as you can see, we got to Hollywood, and doesn't look like a movie set. Petra looks like a movie set. You just every time I go, I can't believe it. This is the other side of Petra. I tried to walk all the way to the other side. I ran out of time because there's a monastery I want to go to, but I didn't start early enough. It's a long haul in a very, very big place. We then came back to Tel Aviv. This is Tel Aviv it was a terrible hotel we stayed in. Sorry, everybody. But anyway, great views, huh? And this is the Mediterranean. And this is the night I was having trouble getting my visa to India sorted out. And so we had a Last Supper. And after that, I missed the swim over here. And this is me bumping into Jill while everybody was going out to have fun. And Jill clicked to this picture, and I'm giving a thumbs up. Like, I know what I'm doing. I have to tell you, when I was standing here, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. No idea at all. I mean, I was launching into a venture by myself. I didn't have plane reservation. I didn't have any of the stuff that most people would think would be normal people would have. And at one point, I put my feet in the water here. I've got a lot of pictures of my feet in certain waters and my feet walking. And we left on Thursday, September 21st in the morning. And the only reason, some of you left on the 22nd, but the only reason I put that up there is as what happened, just 2 weeks later in the breakout of the war. It's not something that we could have ever seen, other than the fact that Iyad, I forgot, I left out the key line here. Iyad, when we were up there on the Temple Mount, said, I left out the key line, that there was going to be a war. He said, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So he said that on September 10th when we were up on the Temple Mount. This is Iyad Kumri, who's our guide. Iyad's been to New Canaan at least 3 times, knows us well. And Iyad, knowing nothing about war, just said that this thing is going to blow up, and it blew up in the most gruesome way, for sure. Okay, I went to Paris, and because Ellie and Kevin were so gracious to have me, where I recovered and rested, and I had a blast, and Jesus, what do you want? I clarified my questions. Every time I'll just say, Paris is so cool. Is Paris not cool? Every time I see this, I'm like, that is cool. I never tire of that, and I never tire of that either. But anyway, Paris, our first night there, for those of you who are longtime members here, is Jono and Lisa, the Biddings, who joined us for dinner that night. And we stayed at a little boutique hotel, and this is where I sat and tried to figure out what the heck I was doing. I've got volumes of paragraphs of stuff I've written about my journey here. And this picture, Ellie and Kevin are here. Can you believe I put this in this thing? I know it's like ridiculous, but I love that picture of you two. And it was just to show you how fun it is. And is Kevin not romantic? I mean, for sure. Those of you who know Ellie and Kevin, and this is where we were. This is no doubt I'm advertising because a friend of mine owns the restaurant. And so this is great. And look at all those other locations you go to, but she doesn't own those ones. Okay. I saw incredible things on walls. This is a wall, which I would say is the best wall I ever drove toward. And when you're driving toward it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the apocalypse. It's all over. It's phenomenal. Okay, and this, guess what? It looks exactly like American sewage. So the French, I always thought they were more highbrow. Not when you get to the sewer. It's all the same. Anyway, I was super disappointed in the Parisian sewers. I could have gotten that in Del Mar, New York, where I grew up. Anyway, this is the so-called American Cathedral in Paris. This is where the Maestro Ned made his name and is still the emeritus director of music ministry there. And that's their new dean, who's a great guy. Used to be in Palm Beach. Was in the in the military chaplain for a while. Anyway, while I was there, I sat behind a pillar. I always sit in the back of church when I go to church. Check out the cool shoes. And I had this experience here in an image that's very important to me, which is, my heart and what's going on with my heart, and movement into the soul, and that kind of Hershey kiss thing sitting in your soul. This is my great desire, and it's the way I conceive of deep prayer, is sitting in your soul. And you can see over there in the note there, to hide in the crevice of God. The crevice of the soul. This is the small place, the desire to enter into the darkness of the divine communion in the light of that light darkness thing that you get when you sit in your soul. This is maybe the next day I was walking to head up to go see this woman who owns this restaurant. And I went to high school with her. I hadn't seen her since high school. And I stumbled in this empty church. This church looked terrible on the outside. And this monstrance, this is called a monstrance with the communion host in it. And I could hardly leave. I lay on the floor. I could hardly move in the silence. I was the only person in the building. I mean, it was like it was just sitting there waiting for me. It was so deeply touching. And here we are at Sacre Coeur, which is where I was headed. That's a big Jesus. That's an incredible spot. And I've always been deeply moved by it, but not this time. This time I was interested in the small spots, not the big Jesus. This is from the top of the steps of Sacre Coeur. Many of you have seen that. That's Paris. Now I got the filter wrong in that because it doesn't really look like that, but that's Paris. Now I bought this jacket here because on the way up, this was a great find of mine because I thought it looked like the cover of Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. Always wanted to be Bruce Springsteen, so I bought this jacket. I think it looks phenomenal on me. Nobody else thinks I look good in this jacket. But this is a soon-to-be daughter-in-law, Frances Robinson, rocking the jacket. He's going to marry my son, Ben, here, who's very good with dishes here. And I told this, and she said that she was right in the mix with the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Dalai Lama. And my sister Ellie gave me this picture. I mean, this is on my bedside table at home. This is Jesus asleep. We just don't, our scriptures didn't spend a lot of time with Jesus sleeping. And man, I would have to say that we all need to rest. Most of us need to rest. We live in such a frenetic world. It is beyond. We just don't know it because we are so used to living in it. But this is a very meaningful piece of sacred sculpture for me. And this is the sort of thing you see in my journal, to sit in the crevice of my soul and listen and rest and come sleeping, Jesus. I just wanted to sleep. I was really tired. Okay, now I go to London, and here I see three reverends, Rowan and Sam and Andy, and the Graham Norton show. Oh my God, is that fun? And when you're going on one of these sabbatical things, you have to plan as you go. So that's one of the things. It's not all done. This is not like hooking yourself to a trip. I stayed with Danny and Lauren, who are Jennifer's cousins who live in Wimbledon. And then Friday, I was in Shoreditch, which is where the cool people hang out, which made it really fun. Okay, this is Rowan Williams. This is a picture I took at the end of lunch. I was going to go to his house in Wales, but he suddenly had to be in London. And he said, meet me down in the cafeteria. This is below St. Martin in the Fields. And he was at the Elder Vinny School recently giving a 3-day lecture. And 2 of the days, at this end of the second day, I said goodbye to him before the lecture started because I knew he'd be mobbed afterward. But he spoke about being recognized and the power of somebody recognizing you in the depths of your being. And right afterward, I ran up to him and I said, "That's what you did to me. You recognized me." So this guy sat across from me, not very far across the table. And he said to me, he leaned forward, didn't even touch his food. He said, "What can I do for you?" Jennifer and I have the great honor of knowing Rowan and his wife, Jane, and their daughter, Rhiannon, long before he became the Archbishop of Canterbury. Yale was trying to hire him, and they stuck him in the cruddy dorm that we were in. And Rowan was like, "Can you believe this is how they're trying to woo me?" We called them Eisenhower colonials. But anyway, they're terrible. But anyway, they were great for us. We moved from New York City. We didn't know any better. But all the people from the Midwest hated it. But anyway, Rowan paid attention to me. And this is kind of what, just give you a sense of my journals. I was asking Rowan, how did he think of Jesus as being alive? And These were the kind of notes, you see here, like the word continues to address him. What he spoke a lot about his own spiritual life. As you may know, Rowan is brilliant. He's perhaps the greatest theologian alive now. He writes books the way most people, I don't know, take a weekend. I have no idea how he writes all these books on an incredible number of topics. And here again, we were talking about deepest experiences, mystical experiences. And then down the below here, we talked a lot about prayer. And Rowan, how does Rowan pray? I used to talk to Rowan about prayer when I was a seminarian and he was a guest. He was a visiting lecturer for one term there. And Jesus, he uses Jesus's prayers, Jesus's words. Father, it is into your hands that I commend my spirit. You can see my circle there. Christian spirituality is Jesus's spirituality within us, and there's a lot to say at another time about that. And so Rowan likes to use Jesus's words because he's Jesus praying within him. What happens after you die? That was a phenomenal conversation, and he was talking quite a bit about that. But you see here, see where it says pettiness? He was talking about pettiness and the rubbish that's in our soul, the self-centered rubbish that's in our soul. And I was like, got hit in the head by a plate when he said the word petty. And he talked about his spiritual director, who is a woman who trained as a Buddhist monk and became a Christian, who is a hermit in far off Wales, and how he goes to see her so that she can give a hard scrubbing to his soul to scrub away the pettiness that accumulates in the soul. I mean, 2 hours with this man, I was ready to come home. I was like, I'm done. I got everything I need. We talked about the Tibetan Book of the Dead and what happens with particular experiences, some good, some challenging, and the necessity not to panic and what that was all about in the soul, life of the soul. We talked about Pip is his son. I got some funny stories about, anyway, I'll leave those off. We talked about, again, kenosis and the discipline of communication. And what I asked, how he survives, because his schedule is, for a guy who's so-called retired, his schedule is unbelievably pressing. And he lost his assistant, who was phenomenal, and somehow she's not doing it anymore. And he really struggles. He calls this diary. Oh, he has a funny phrase for it. I'll have to see if it pops back in my head. But anyway. Here, music, he is very moved by music, and particularly Bach, and he cranks up Bach at the end of the day. He's written some books about Bach's music, and that quells the beast within him. And then we talked about the church, the wobbly church. I loved that. He said, particularly in the United States, England and Wales, you can see that down here. He said, the church is a terrible mess. And he talked about that, and I don't have time to go into all that. I asked him what would Jane say, WWJD, or WWJS, and what would Jane say to me if she was listening? And he said that Jane would say, keep yourself a human being, give yourself enough space to breathe. This is the sort of thing that she says to him. She says, just say no, like Nancy Reagan. Rowan's not very good at saying no. And nibbled to death by the ducks, that there's so many things. Rowan spoke of very movingly about getting a nasty, nasty email for him the other day with somebody who, as he said, I thought was my friend. And he was very upset and rolled around in bed all night. And then he said the next, the morning, what would it hurt for me to respond in a nice way? And that's just the type of guy he is. Rowan is not only the smartest guy in the room, he's the most humble guy in the room. I mean, there's very, very, very few human beings like this man. Making space for yourself, time to breathe more deeply. Francis de Sales, the Salesian brothers, he was talking about somebody who wanted to be spiritual director with Francis, and he said, not until you slow down the way you eat and you learn to talk and walk more slowly, then I'll consider, which Wow. Okay. Thanks, Francis. Anyway, we had a long conversation about Welsh politics. Phineas, our youngest son, is for some reason an expert in Welsh politics, and had basically schooled me on Welsh politics so I could talk to Rowan about it. And Rowan is the head of the Independent Commission on the Constitutional Future of Wales. I mean, this guy, everybody wants a piece of this guy, including the Welsh government. And he used to be, I asked him about the House of Lords, and he said, oh, the House of Lords, I dropped out of the House of Lords. I withdrew. He said, that was better for me to do this other stuff. This is what I mean. He doesn't care if he's in the Lords, House of Lords. There's Parliament, and he talked about Welsh stuff. But anyway, very, very entrenched devolution here. Those of you who are Welsh devotees will know what that means. Anyway, this is that. Anyway, there was so much to say about Rowan, and sorry I took so long in that. We talked about the Jesus prayer. We talked about Maranatha, the word for me. We had a long time conversation about Maranatha. We talked about the Dalai Lama, and at the end of it, he started with the Dalai Lama, and he finished with the Dalai Lama, and at the end he said, well, you know, the Dalai Lama, he stayed at our house for 3 days. And I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, there were lamas, like 6, 7 lamas in every room. And he said, 24 hours a day, they're cooking that crazy Tibetan food, smelled terrible. And then he said, the last thing he said to me when we were walking away, he said, well, hi to Jennifer. And if you see His Holiness, say, Rowan and Jane say, send their love. And you'll see that comes back to me, comes back. Anyway, so I got to keep moving. That was the thing I took away, was what a waste. We waste so much time being petty. It's phenomenal. What a waste of life. Oh my God, who cares? That's what I think of life right there. Okay. You know, that's what the proud get, right? Anyway. Now, this is a guy named Sam Wells, who is the vicar of St. Martin in the Fields. Sam is a phenomenally capable priest. Oh my gosh. I have no idea how he writes all these books. And everybody says his wife's a bishop, and everyone's like, oh, have you met his wife? I'm like, I don't need to meet his wife. I met him. This guy's good. But anyway, I talked to Sam about what happens when you die. I was really into this, and you can see existence and essence and all that sort of stuff. I talked to Sam, a very, very important conversation for clergy. And John, you're not there yet, but this had to do with ambition and jobs. And Sam, man, did Sam lay out how clergy think about their work, and you know, 1, 2, and 3, and how you think about all this. I was immensely helpful for me to listen to Sam. Rylan Angel, who sings with us, who is golden-throated. He's aptly named Angel. This is his brother, who has a PhD in New Testament, works for the Diocese of Oxford. I tracked this guy down way beyond. He was not in the cool part of Oxford. He was in the uncool part of Oxford. It took me a long way to get there. But I was super delighted to find out that he's writing a book about Maranatha, my word, my mantra, and mine, the world's not mine. But and he was talking about, this is just a few things I thought I'd pick out. You know, it's in the original language in the New Testament, and he said that points to how important it was for the early church. It was used like shalom, as you may know. People used Maranatha as a mantra and as a greeting. Maranatha is the last prayer in the New Testament. It's the last prayer in the book of Revelation. It means, come, Lord, in Aramaic. It's the language that Jesus spoke. Anyway, much to say about that, about the heart's cry. Maranatha is the heart's cry. And that you have to wait. It's about waiting, and how much of our spiritual life is about waiting. He had a lot to say. So I went from that to the Graham Norton Show. And I just have to say, if you don't know about the Graham Norton Show, go on YouTube and type in the Graham Norton Show and watch the little pieces. This guy is genuinely funny. And through Jennifer's cousin, I got to know his partner who started the show with him, the executive producer. I met him in Maine this summer, and he said, "Oh, come to the show." And then he gave me tickets to an Arsenal game. So the nicest guy on the planet. That's what the set looks like. There's 400 people there. If you take a picture with your cell phone, they carry you out. And I know that because someone in front of me did. I was like, I cannot believe that. Anyway, this is coming home late at night in Wimbledon. And it's so peaceful to be on the streets by myself. Okay, this is Shoreditch. I don't know if you've been to Shoreditch. This is a little bit like Soho was before Soho got expensive, and Tribeca before Tribeca got cool. And it has the best graffiti. This is Mark Thorsheim. We're standing in front of Biggie Smalls. Anyway, I was trying to find a yoga studio and I packed my stuff up, and I ended up in an alley where there was nobody. There was no sound. It was like I went to the end of the earth, and it was just these things. And on the right side, there were buildings that nobody was in and doors that were blackened. And this was the thing that met me when I walked in there. It was like someone had painted that for me. Okay. I got to keep us moving here. The Camino de Football, the Thorsheim season. So there was another whole other set of pilgrimages here, which have to do, those of you who are soccer or football fans, Tottenham, Liverpool. We did the Camino, parts of the Camino de Frances, which was England, France, Spain. In an epic day, one day, yikes, Pamplona, the small Jesus and the running of the beer. We didn't see any bulls, but we did see beer. And then we did the reverse Camino and spent a night in a resort town I'd never heard of, Biarritz. Maybe if you guys all know that. And it did the Eurostar, flight in a Eurostar again, and went to 2 more games. Just to give you a sense of that, Mark made me a book of this, which was so fun. This guy here, he cussed for the whole game and yelled at the other fan base that couldn't hear him. But man, you want to talk about a guy who's got endless energy to cuss at people? That guy has got it. Also, there was a goal scored in the last 15 seconds. It's a very controversial game because one of the Liverpool guys was taken off the field in a way he shouldn't have been taken off the field. Here we are. Look at how our seats are. This is the corner. The play happened right here that caused the goal. I wanted to be a professional goalkeeper, and I'll tell you, all you need to do is see a real professional goalkeeper, and you think, thank God I got called to be a priest, because this is no way. This guy is like a cougar. He's the best goalkeeper in the world. He's the Liverpool goalkeeper. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Absolutely beautiful. I took about 400 pictures of him. There's one where he's about to catch the ball. This is give you a sense of the proud English people. You ready? There's no American equivalent. A goal goes in, 15 seconds left in extra time. Amazing. Okay. You think that's good? Wait to hear this. This is where they went from after that cheer. This is where they went. Tell you what he said. It's not only privately. I can't. It's being recorded. I can't say it. The next morning we got up at 3:45 in the morning. This is Mark getting on the airplane, and that's the sun rising on the airplane. Now we're in Pierre de Saint John, which is we're going to start the Camino. We are so clueless. It's phenomenal how dumb we are. Okay. This is the beginning of the Camino Frances. And so we start up this mountain, and I just have to say, the first few steps I was chatting, and then suddenly it went straight up and I stopped talking. But luckily, Mark is fitter than I am, and he's very loquacious. So he talked me. This is an area that I thought was one of the most beautiful places I'd ever seen. The picture doesn't quite capture it. This, I look like I'm praying. I threw out one piece of paper, and it was the map. And our phones don't really work. And we're on the top of a mountain, and there's no people. So, and there's a few choices on where you might go. Did have no idea where we're going. So Mark, this is Mark's book to me. Says here, like, duh, you threw out the one piece of paper we needed. Like, you're a really smart dude. Anyway, this will give you a sense of the Camino Trail. You're just alone in the world. If you're alone in the world, this is what you see. You're literally alone in the world. Okay, this is the top of the mountain. We made it to the top. This is the Pyrenees, and it was amazing. I felt like I needed an oxygen tank, and I thought getting down there was no problem. That turned out to be a very big problem. because guess what? This is the last of the sun. The sun went down, and had my phone not died. Mark's phone died. I don't know if we ever would have made it off the mountain. This is the next day. I was Mark's official photographer. Should be a model. Look at that shot of Mark. This is Pamplona. Many of you have probably been to Pamplona. What a phenomenal city. The old city of Pamplona, that is. Maybe the new city of Pamplona is also great, but this is. And this is the cathedral in Pamplona. This is a little chapel where we were both cut to the heart. It's a tiny chapel with a tiny Jesus. We were both cut to the heart to pray in front of the tiny Jesus. And this is Pamplona at night and the fun of it. And here we are the next morning. Time to hit the road. Mark is I've skipped many days of it. Now we're doing the reverse. Mark is a horse whisperer. He's actually communicating with these animals. I walk by him. Mark stops and communicates with them. How about a room with a view? This is just how beautiful it is. This is my Sound of Music thing. The hills are alive. You know, I was really, really feeling it there. This horse, horse was like staring me down. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Anyway, they're just all over the place. This is what it looks like. It's like being in a dream. This is what I said was going to happen to Mark and to me, because we didn't have another way up the first time. We didn't have any water. We didn't have any food, and we didn't know where we were going. It was an epic day. I kept saying near-death experience. This is after we made it and showered, and now we're feeling very good about ourselves. We go back to London where all the cool people hang out. We go to see Crystal Palace. And we sat in the area where everybody just yells and cusses. It was so fun. And then we went to Gabriel Jesus is a player on the Walsh are Arsenal people. And I traveled the world to buy that jersey. Okay, and so this is the first time they've beaten Man City in forever. I won't give it too much, but this is to give you a sense. Anyway, total blast. Went there early and was first there and last to leave. And the whole thing was an epic trip. Okay, passage to India, passage to the soul. This is a whole new thing. Spiritual direction, holy conversation, meditation and contemplation, spiritual experience. And I went to these different places. Okay, so just to give you a sense, many of you have been to India. This is just been the car ride. This is a fish market over here. This is my room, my bathroom. Now, the reason I show you, no water. I drank only in India. I carried bottled water and toilet paper everywhere I went. There was, and oftentimes there are no toilets, as those of you know. There's a hole in the floor. You'll notice that the shower has no stall. It took me a little while to get used to that, but that's how many people in the world, they don't. The floor is just canted downward. This is the road next to where I stayed with the tuk-tuks. Walked down that road a ton of times on the way to the beach. Now, this is the morning on the beach, the sacred cows everywhere. This is my first morning there with this bird chilling on the horn of the cow. This is where I spent a tremendous amount of time with my friend Chris, who was the guy I went to see in India, Chris Ahrens, with his wife Jackie. Chris and I became friends in 2016 in South Africa. He was the Archbishop Tutu's chaplain as a younger man before he fell in love with Jackie and had to leave the post because the chaplain, he lived in the bedroom next to the Tutus. They're very close friends of the Tutus, and Jackie taught in a school where all their kids went. But anyway, we meditated in this spot every morning. Here's Chris. Everybody thought Chris, people were saying, where'd you get your guru? He's an Anglican priest. He's an Episcopal priest. And at 65, they make you retire. And Chris and Jackie sold their house and they traveled for 23 months, and Chris got rid of his clothes, so he doesn't have any clothes on. Anyway, this is meditating on the beach. This is one phenomenal human being. This guy helped me more than you can believe. Let me just, this is.
The notion of the kingdom of heaven, that kingdom come is about consciousness, which is what Jesus.
There's a blog everywhere. Chris is talking about kingdom heaven and Christ consciousness. We talked about stuff like that all the time. When Chris talked, I brought my notebook with me everywhere, and this is the sort of thing I was talking about or drawing in my book. To drop into the abyss of God. This is the kind of things that I was writing down. I don't have time to give you all the contents here, but you see just a sense of the mind dropping into the soul, which is, again, how the Orthodox talk about prayer, putting the mind in the soul, or they would say put the mind in the heart, but the way they use heart is the way we would use soul. And a lot of self-wrestlings for me. With Chris. Chris was a phenomenal spiritual guide for me. He studied deeply in Jungian studies also. And here, the exploration of inner space became a very big deal for me. And I was thinking, the great billionaires are in search of outer space. I wrote it here. Great billionaires of the world are seeking to conquer outer space as though the earthly world's too small for them, too confined. Imagine if they wanted to conquer inner space. Can you imagine if Elon Musk meditated and the benefits of the interior life? I mean, this guy could change the world, but he could change the world in a way of deep peace if he knew how to enter into the depths of his soul. But I don't think he's quite got that. At least I don't see it from the outside. This is me saying my prayers at the ocean. This is where we had the Putnam Chai Shop, man. This is the coolest place on the planet. Remember we had breakfast. Man, here's Chris and Jackie in the chai shop here. And this guy here, this is Hooligan Steve. Jackie nicknamed him Hooligan Steve. I love Hooligan Steve. Okay, so his name is Steve, and he used to be a hooligan. Hooligans are the people getting fights at these big football matches. And it turns out hooligans are like armies. They are not just a random group of people that go punch the living daylights out of each other. They have a whole military structure. And Steve was a general, and he owned a pub, and he was married to a woman from India. And you can see here, Manchester United, a football club, okay? And all of his kids at birth got the same tattoo or something. And he broke his nose and several times, one time with a flying brick, and cracked in the back of his head by a milk bottle. I love this man. And he gave me a talk about the reasonableness of being a hooligan from his wife's perspective. I wrote it down. I mean, it was amazing. The defensive, and I have to say, he had some good points. Because I could never understand why you would get it. And you should hear the stories of these fights. Wow. And he showed me on his phone, the fights on his phone. Oh, frightening. And this is Steve. I mean, Chris thought this guy was nuts. And they can tell that this is breakfast with Chris and Hooligan Steve. And so at breakfast in the morning with a hooligan, and at night, this was Chirapatra here, a Buddhist monk, or a man who stepped away from being a Buddhist monk. An Australian man who went to Sri Lanka and basically never went home, became a Buddhist monk. And so I had Dharma dinners. I was having breakfast in the morning with Hooligan Steve and dinner at night with Shirapatra. And my wife, Jennifer, said, these are the two sides of your personality. But anyway, this guy taught me so much about the life of the Buddha, about Buddhist perspectives on things. Incredible. This is... that's what all my meals look like. I haven't had meat since I went to India. My doctor told me not to eat meat in India, and I haven't had any meat since. And I had portraits of cows. I mean, there's cows are everywhere. This is outside my road. It's amazing that these people can walk so upright to keep these things. We did a lot of stuff about my trying to sort out my inner life. You can see military industrial complex. That's what I called my thoughts. And I had the role of the lion, my interior lion, and I thought the lion was going to eat me if I didn't satisfy the lion. And Chris turned me completely around on that. And we had conversations like that for hours in places like this, staring out at the beach. I didn't know where I was. Chris had to draw a map of India, and we were making up where to go. And so this is us like, well, we're here, and we could go here or here, but we can't go everywhere, kind of thing. And this is us just trying to figure out where we're going. Yeah, we made up the trip as we went. Here's my Seaview Resort, multi-cuisine bar restaurant, exotic pool and rooms, parking. I'm telling you, by New Canaan standards, I would not have used the word exotic. But anyway, love this place, and we'll go back in a second. This is when I was writing. This is what I saw when I was writing. Chris wanted me to take a portrait of a man in front of a shop with a cow. That was the name of this, and that's me. There's Chris and I on the road because we walked and walked everywhere. This is what it looks like in the back street, just to give you a sense of it. Here's the yoga studio. This is what it looks like on the beach at night. I mean, it's spellbindingly beautiful. I love the shot with the guy with the ball up in the air. And again, this is the they have a very big railings from here. And again, this is the kind of place we sat and discussed these things. One day, Chris said to me, "Hey, man, you got to get a massage. I got this like healer woman. Maybe she sounds like she's up your alley." She was more than up my alley, and I didn't know where I was going. That pin was like the pin in the middle of nowhere. In the South Beach community. Rajbagh is the name of it, population like 11. And I got in the tuk-tuk with the guy, and we didn't speak English, and I showed him this thing, Rajbagh, and he drove to Rajbagh. He couldn't find it either. Eventually went down. I mean, this guy was lost. I didn't know where I was. And eventually ended up there. I even took a picture of my shoes. I spent so much time in that thing. It was on a back street. And I came upon this place because there it was. I was met at the door by a person. I'm introverted, believe it or not. I had my head down. She must be introverted. She had her head down. The thing I knew is she had 2 tattooed arms. She was from another country, and it didn't sound like India. I went in, and this was the room. She later sent me pictures. I've been in touch with her. And while I was there, I had significant spiritual experiences on that table. The first day there, she touched the back of my neck, and I wept and wept. And many of you have heard the story. I did it in a sermon where I just cried, and for all the stress that I carry, all the stress. I cried for my kids. I cried for my wife. I cried for me. And when I was crying, I had visions of all the people, many of the people who in the parish whose husbands had died, and people with terrible things that I was truly housing in my body. And she was releasing, and as I said, Kathy, Bill's face popped up during that time. It was very moving for me, and also incredibly enlivening. And part of that came out in the sermon, what's it mean to be a human being? And I also had a vision the next day. I went to see her the next day, and I had a vision of being, what is a human being? Because I was very wound up about being, and I don't have time to talk about that vision. It's in a sermon, but then I had a vision of myself talking about being. That's me on top of being, and I'm laughing, guffawing at myself that anyone would consider me an authority about God, because the divine is so beyond our ability to use words for. Our language is so pitiful compared to what the divine being is like. No, there isn't any word. The word God is a stupid word. It's like, nah, doesn't catch it. And so I spoke a little bit about that in a sermon, the origins of our identity. I also, I got caught up in a divine vision of the heavens, and that's in that sermon too, where I experienced bliss. The bliss of divine being smiled upon. And again, I don't have time tonight to go into it, but I don't know if you've ever experienced spiritual bliss. Once, I mean, the view in the heavens, I would do anything to close the gap between me and the heavens, and it's not closable. But to be smiled on by the divine was there's no words for it. But it changed my life. It rewired my soul. It literally rewired me. And when I left, I walked along here. I stumbled on this river. I didn't know where I was. Remember how I couldn't get there? Well, I didn't know how to get home. It's not like you do an Uber or anything. I went down a road and I ended up at this river. There was nobody in the river. There wasn't anybody anywhere. There wasn't anybody in the town. There wasn't anybody in the river. And it was like I was in a dream. You can just hear that. And then I walked along this road, along the river. I finally found a road. And there wasn't anybody there either. One other day when I walked along there was a bunch of fishermen there, and I walked by them. You should have seen the look on their face with a right angle guy walking down the road. They're like, "Oh my God, where did you come from?" But anyway, eventually, this is the town where nobody was, and I eventually got home by the beach because this is the last day on the beach in Putnam. I'm like, "Hey, Chris, turn around, man. I'm taking your picture." This is our last morning on the beach. And we said goodbye. It was very, very sad. When Chris went back after, he sent me a lot of pictures of this spot. Very, very meaningful spot for me. This was at a restaurant in the capital of Goa. This is what they have on the wall in a bar. In the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. That's in a bar. I'm like, this place is killing it. This is a yoga park. I got to. Instead of having fitness parks, this is a yoga park. Okay, now we're moving, and just to give you some sense. I mean, there are cars going the wrong way on major highways coming at you. We were getting on a bridge, and a car was driving right at us in the entrance ramp. And I mean, this is where I stayed the first night in Rishikesh. This is Chris's idea of a good place to stay. And they were building the second floor while I was trying to sleep. I was like, Chris, I can't live like you. These people live on 25 USD a day. I'm like, I'm upgrading. I spent $25 a day on that resort hotel. That was what they charged me, 25. How about that? I stayed at a resort for $25 a day. Okay, here I'm in Rishikesh, you know, and here's the Ganges, and here's an ashram in front of me, and meditation, and in my favorite shoes in the world here. This is the Om Shanti. And this is a look of the cafe. I love the sign: no smoking, no kissing, no shouting, please. But I'm like, no kissing. What's that all about? And they have, as you know, many of the gods and the Hindu gods are very sexy. And I'm like, they got sexy gods, but you can't kiss. Okay. I love store names here. I just took a few. We went to the Beatles ashram, and because, you know, okay, so you have to be old enough to really appreciate this. You remember the Maharishi and Transcendental Meditation. This is the center of Transcendental Meditation. And these are meditation caves. They have thousands of these things, and they got to take care of them. Our mom was big on preservation. I was like, I'm going to become the head of the Preservation League here. They got to get their act together. And save these things. These are incredible. This is a dormitory. They had 2,000 people staying there regularly all week. These meditation chambers everywhere. That's me. Can't you just feel the vibration? Joke. Okay, so here's the Maharashi's residence, former residence. It's way up above, and the backside is the Ganges. They have several places dedicated to the Beatles. But I just thought, those of you who are Beatles fans, you'll start to realize in the Beatles music, when they went to India and the effect on, and particularly in John Lennon and George Harrison. Thank you. George Harrison was all in, and Paul was all out. Those of you who are fans of this, you grew up with this stuff. I mean, you probably remember all this. This is where they stayed. This is the housing that they were in. Jackie wanted give me All You Need Is Love. Isn't that great? They have this little dinky museum. I just thought I'd show you a few pics of these. I mean, isn't this incredible? There's Donovan. My mom loved Donovan. Ellie, remember we had Donovan's Greatest Hits, 2-album set? Phenomenal. These songs inspired by the Maharishi and TM. The hurdy-gurdy man. Yeah, again, you have to be of a certain age and you're loving it. If you're not of your age, you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Here, Stevie Wonder. And then, of course, Across the Universe. And once you know this is developed there, Chris had said, why don't you sit down and have your picture taken, let it be. This became an immensely important photograph to me because I realized you're going to see I can't rewire certain things in my life, but what I can do is let it be, and I'll get to that in a moment. We were coming home from there, and there was a dead guy down below us. On a stretcher, and I didn't have any idea why there was a dead guy in a stretcher. You know, I've seen a lot of dead people, but this I had not seen. Watched them strip the man down, the dad or granddad, and throw his clothes in the river. we have a hard time talking about it here. It's just a part of their life. This is men's business. These are all men. There's no women here. I heard a lot about their burial things. Here we are coming back from the funeral pyre in heavy traffic in Rishikesh and having dinner that night. I was a friend of Chris and Jackie's from Cape Town. Now we're switching neighborhoods. You can see that we're now in the Sikh neighborhood. And our driver, that's, the Sikhs all have knives. Our driver had a real knife. This is a chai cup. They don't, Modi said, no more plastic and no more paper. And so they have these cups where when you're done, they just chuck it in the pile here. Did a lot of train time. This is a sign you'd never see in the United States. How's that? Upper class waiting room. Boy, that's okay. So remember when I said rules about New Canaan when you're spacing out at the light and three people behind you get on the horn. This is Dharamsala. Let's give you a sense of life there. The World Cricket Cup was there. I mean, South Africa did phenomenally well in cricket and in rugby. That's all people talk about. Everybody had a cell phone watching cricket, and everybody wanted to talk to Chris because he was South African. And it's a mania. It's a cricket mania. Phenomenally fascinating. I had Chris explain it to me so many times. Then I said, it's really great, your explanation, but I don't know what the terms mean. So I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, this is one day. This is the stadium. Those of you who are cricket fans, here's the stadium from up where we were staying. This is the side of the mountain outside of my hotel room. You can see it's white capped, snow capped we're in the foothills of the Himalayas. And this is really the village. Up above here is Durham Cot, and now we're moving down into the village where the Dali lives. This gives you a sense of this. This is a phenomenal place to stay fit because you got to walk down that hill a lot. Very, very, very good. This is morning outside my balcony. This is where our tea shop, our chai tea shop. Jackie took this picture of me. We're getting ready to do what we did every morning. Chris is doing business here. I'm just chilling, waiting for this. Toshita Meditation Center. Check this out. Buddhist philosophy and the needs for ultimate happiness. I love that. Imagine if our churches said, Christian spirituality and needs for ultimate happiness. I think we got to change our advertising. This is the Toshita Meditation Center. I had to cut a lot of this out because you would like it, I think, but it's too much time. I'm already too long. This woman who ran our groups. This is the meditation room for guests. She taught me something that is one of the greatest teachings I ever got, which is here we are settling in to meditation, and this is popular. These are all these people from all over the world. And at one point, we were following our breath, and then she was doing a guided meditation. And she said, your breath is the most interesting thing in the world. This is a phenomenal statement for those of you who are meditators. And here, when we're getting ready, here's Chris and Jackie meditating here. Now, this is the sort of thing that you get. All happiness one finds in the world comes from wishing happiness for others. All suffering one finds in the world comes from wanting happiness for oneself. It's very, very common Buddhist teachings. As long as space remains, as long as transmigrating beings remain, until then may I remain to clear away their suffering. This is the sort of thing you'll hear the Dalai Lama speaking about. This is me walking down the hill, just to give you a sense of it. There's a lot of talk. I got a lot of questions about the Dalai Lama, the next Dalai Lama, and little kids as monks and raised up. I can't answer any of the questions because I don't know the answer, but I did see these junior monks and they're 4, 5, 6 years old, and the older monks taking care of them. They might spend the summer with these guys. Here they are just going into a shop. It was very interesting to see the little kids. I love going to countries where they just hang the meat out on the street. I really do. I think phenomenal. This is a very famous woman who's working on picking up the garbage in India. We have revved up for Sundays. I was thinking John and Elizabeth and I could start a go into the Coca-Cola thing, make some money for the church. I think I'll skip this, but this is walking out of the Tushita Meditation Center just to give you a sense of what it looks like in the forest on the side. This is a prayer wheel. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a prayer wheel. And this is about what prayer wheels are like. And this is Jackie and Chris ahead of me. And so this is how they pray on the... We have in our country secular... Oh my God, there's none of that. Everybody is burning incense in this world. Same, but different shop. This is a phenomenal name, and it's absolutely true. Same, but different. That's what they all were like. This is the Dalai Lama's secretary, Zenzen, had suggested this is the Anglican church. This is the Christian church in the Dalai Lama's community. And we went there, as Chris and I, after we were meditating in there in the morning. And this is what we did. We spent a lot of time jabbering. And there's a thing for me particularly important. Cognitive reframing is what in Buddhism talks about thinking about things differently. And Chris is helping me with my line, and the lion and the lamb lie down together, of course, from Isaiah. In the interior military industrial complex, the only way to deal with the things that had been formed into me was to let it be. I couldn't change my past, and I can't deconstruct anything in my life, but I can let it be. I can de-energize it. Very important for me. Spent a lot of time talking about what I came to understand of the three sources of our identity: the outside world. Who do you say that I am? Who does our culture say that you are? The nexus of our nature and our nurture and our family systems, right? Our genetic imprint and the systems we grow up in. And then the loving gaze of the divine, the interior cave where one sits. There's a picture of that and how I understand it. And that this is where you get your identity, right here, to go into the interior cave and to see that the divine is loving you and staring you. And in those of you who remember my sermon, in the divine gaze, you realize you're good enough just as you are. We waste our time trying to be impressive to people. What a monumental waste of time. We waste our time in our lives. It's ridiculous because we're good with the divine. You're loved as you are. That's where you get your identity from. Here's Chris and I. We are cramming the night before we see the Dalai Lama in a movie done by Bishop Tutu and the Dalai Lama. Given that Chris very close with Archbishop Tutu, Arch as he is known to his friends. We could get Chris here just to talk about Bishop Tutu. It's what he has to say is phenomenal. But anyway, this is a movie made by a friend of ours, or mine, and Mission Joy. Some of you said, and some of you have seen the book about their college conversations. So we're cramming the night before we go. Here we are. I could hardly sleep. I was so excited. I did so much to prepare for this, and I was told to put on my religious garb. I almost forgot how to put my collar on. This is where the Dalai Lama lives. Okay, so this is an outer building. This is the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, and up here begins the Dalai Lama's compound above it, and the hill drops off down below. And this is how, when you walk in, this is kind of what you would see. And now you get in, this is the Dalai Lama's compound here, this gate here, and they have very high security for him. As you know, he's an enemy of the state of China, and they're very concerned to protect him as a spiritual treasure the Tibetan people. This guy there's no words for what a treasure this man is. I just blown out of the water by him. Over here, there's a little park here. And another day, you would see young monks in training, arguing with each other. That's what they do in Buddhist practice. It's like the debate club in high school, except that they're a little more vociferous. Is to clarify your thinking. Buddhism is greatly based in the mind, and a lot to say about the mind of God and the mind. But that's where they work that out. Okay, so now we go through this long line. And again, I can't go through it. We come in through security. So it's I get a sermon on this. It took about 4 hours to get through the sermon. Sorry about that. But we get here to see the Dalai Lama. And we're at the end, and the his secretary put us at the end so we could spend more time with him. And I have to tell you, to kneel before this guy, I don't have any words for it. And the first thing we said when I got there, they said, chaplain to Archbishop Tutu. And I said, no, it's the guy next to me here. And Chris had said to me, this is not going to change my life. And I looked at Chris's face. I'm like, wrong. And this is his wife, Jackie. And Chris in the end, and Chris and I are stunned in silence. And Jackie wept. That's what it's like to be in his presence. And so I was so happy when he was talking to Chris, a heightened sense of gladness. And now so here, I didn't know what to do with the Dalai Lama. And so I blurted out in the ultimate name drop, Rowan Williams senses love. It just came out of me. It was unbelievable. And so then he didn't quite catch what I said. So here's his translator. He said, Rowan Williams, Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, man, that was a good name drop. That was a game changer, because then he zeroed in on me in a big way. And he started to talk to me, but he was speaking Tibetan. So I have zero idea what he had to say, but it doesn't matter. If this guy looks at you, and you know it. And he starts to smile at me. And I'll tell you, if the Dalai Lama smiles at you, you smile. My feet were smiling. My ears were smiling. My whole being was smiling. And Phineas, our youngest son, said, Pops, we're going to put that on your order of service when you're dead, because you look good. You're so happy. And I was so happy. And then he grabs my hands, and then all of a sudden, things get more intense. And he holds up his hand. You can see me grabbing my heart. He holds up his hand to begin to pray for me. And then all of a sudden, I have a vision of the Dalai Lama, his inside life as a Himalayan mountain of spiritual attention, of silence. And when he starts to pray for me, I feel a whoosh that comes out of him that is like having my heart shot out of my back like a bazooka in a mountain flooding stream. I was blown out of the water by being with him. I mean, there's just no words for what it was like to experience his silence and then to be prayed for by him. And then he wanted to take a picture of us, which I thought was very funny, as you can see. And he was like, you got to sit down. He's trying to tell us how to sit down. And all I could think of was my 8th grade CYO hoop picture. And I thought, oh man, we got to get the Dalai Lama the ball because he's the captain. Anyway, that was really fun. That's the sermon. I talked about that. We walked out. I didn't want to talk. And this is a sign they have in the outside of their temples. I'm like, can you believe that? I mean, someone's going to steal someone's shoes at the Dalai Lama's temple. That's super low. But anyway, here we are walking out. Here we are leaving. We finally get to start talking when we have our chai. This is a sense of where you get mind training. And this is Durham Cot, where Chris and Jack are living. That's where I moved because, again, these people, I mean, I might as well just slept on the cement. Their idea of a room was not my idea of a room. But anyway, this is life up where they are. This is what you see all the time. God, I love this. On the guardrail, right? Here we are walking through the top of the mountains, the Buddha delight. And I wanted to this. Here we are again discussing the meaning of life. These are some Buddhist monks on their cell phones, completely ruining my image of Buddhist monks. I'm like, you shouldn't be scrolling through that stuff, dude. You're a Buddhist monk. Anyway, here we are, my friends. This is how you get greeted when you get back to the hotel at night. You get mooned by the monkeys. And this is us leaving town with the cow saying, you're leaving, huh? Really? You're not done. Anyway, this is the cow saying goodbye to me when we left. We went to New Delhi and saw Gandhi, where Gandhi was shot, and that's phenomenal. This is where Gandhi spent the last days of his life. That's where he lived, on this little thing. I mean, this was a man of the most in-depth simplicity. There's one beautiful prayer we don't have time for. And that's a very moving place. But you want to talk about fun, going shopping in India. That is fun because the American dollar goes phenomenally far here. This is Portrait of a Man shopping. And just to give you a sense of these markets here. Here we are just cruising, self-portrait of 3 people who are having fun in life. I just put this in here. When Chris went home, he'd been away for 23 months, and the bishop and senior priest in the chapter of the Diocese of Salahanda Bay. So the Diocese of Cape Town was broken into 3 dioceses after Bishop Tutu stepped down. But Chris was given the Archbishop of Cape Town's Award for Justice and Peace. Here he is, my friend, the Reverend Chris Aarons. I'm super proud of this. I'm super proud that I know Chris, who is a stand-up man for our Lord and has given his life to helping oppressed peoples. Anyway, I came home. That was wild. New York, that was wild to come home. That was unimaginable. I just couldn't believe that that's where I lived. It just couldn't believe it. I'd been away for 2 months without seeing anybody that I was related to, besides Ellie and Kevin here. So then we took off to Mexico. Jennifer and I thought maybe we ought to reintroduce ourselves. So we went to Mexico City. And there, of course, we went to yoga. That's what we do. Here we are in Mexico City. Loved Mexico City. I just kind of like that picture because I feel like I'm standing on the stars. This is me trying to chase my wife. I can't keep up with this woman. And she tried to give me some culture. I went to a ballet. I was like, I went kicking and screaming, and I loved it. I couldn't believe it. This is the arts in Mexico are phenomenal. But here I am completely lost, right? That's a good self-portrait, a portrait of me, clueless. I said when I get done, I'm going to do recycling in Mexico because these people have the coolest recycling. Okay, this is Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe, right? A vision that a man named John received of Our Lady and said, "Build me a chapel." And he went back and I don't have the key picture here. I must have accidentally deleted it. Of the shroud, a picture of the shroud came back and it was of roses, and they built this. This is. And I went to communion. I'm like, who cares? Nobody cares. How are they gonna do it? And so I said, just follow me. And she went, and then she had communion. Nothing happened to her. Anyway, this thousands and thousands of people pour in here, but that's a topic for another day. Went to these pyramids. Holy smokes, do I know nothing about Mexico and the incredible history that Mexico has? The things that are said about Mexico are horrifying, but what a rich civilization. Wow, I was blown away. Okay, this is coming home on a bus. Hey, they don't do traffic safety the way we do either. I am standing on a bus. Now look at this. Okay, we are in good hands. We got Jesus on the crucifix, right? We got Our Lady of Guadalupe. We got some Indian god here, and we got Mickey Mouse. So the fact that I was standing in the aisle going 60 miles an hour, hurtling down the road, I thought, we're good to go. This is the other thing. I'm sorry, I'll finish up. When I grow up, I want to be like him. He was very cool. I just took a picture of this woman's face. I saw the most beautiful faces in the world in one of the markets. Then we went to this, I don't know what you call it, but wow. I mean, we went into this cave here, 130, 40 degrees. That was super hot. We did that. That's what it looks like before they put all the hot coals in there. And we were there with another American couple. They all fled, but I stayed in there, and I loved meditating in there by myself. Very cool. Okay, this is what we're getting rid of. This, we sat down for lunch one day. This woman, she goes, like, it's clear we were Americans. She knows people in New Canaan. She knows people in the parish. That was a very, very funny. She works for the Magrino PR firm. We came home. We came home to Ben's engagement to Francis. That was so fun. Oh my God, I love these people. Okay, a few concluding thoughts and you can finally go home. The divine being is beyond our ability to grasp. I mean, we are fooling around here, folks. We're at the edge of the ocean, but the God is like the ocean, but we're mostly dinking around on the shore. The meaning of the rest of my life, it became clear to me that the pursuit of the divine being is the underlying meaning. That's what I try to do with my life. I would like to, with what I have left, is to pursue union with that divine being. In meditation, I move from discipline to desire. I meditate every morning, not because I need to, but because I desire to, not doing it because of discipline. And I listen to Om all the time. This is one of my, I have 138 playlists on Spotify. I have a thing called Om Home, and I listen to Om chanting all the time. driving most people nuts. Your breath, yeah, I'm into breath. This is my singing bowl out in New Canaan. The profundity of the divine is lived out in the most simple acts of kindness, love, and humility. I mean, God is love, and the truth is, we live out our lives in like tiny little acts of kindness and love. That's how you be in union with the divine. Saint Therese of Lisieux, those of you who are the little flower, she wrote a great book about that. And don't be petty, man. I mean, I'm talking to myself. I mean, you're going to be dead soon. And what a waste of time to be worrying about what other people think of you or what you think of other people. I just have to say, just shelve all that stuff. And, you know, the worst thing is it might follow you to the heavens. How'd you like to go to the heavens and carry all that with you? Excuse me. You got to just let it be. You just got to let it be. There it is. And so time for this talk to end. I'm sorry it lasted so long, but thank you so much for coming.